Welcome to Report Crimes. Tonight's the night, and it's going to happen again. Tonight, we uncover a chilling chapter from history. In the grim landscape of early 1980s New York, a shadow fell across the city. A predator began to stalk its streets, leaving behind a trail of fear. His targets were often those most vulnerable, and his actions created a terror that gripped the city. On June 2, 1981, the city awoke to a new kind of nightmare. The victim was a young woman named Adele. Her discovery wasn't just another sad loss. It was a scene that spoke of calculated control, like someone wanted the entire city to be shaken by it. This wasn't a crime of passion, but a deliberate act intended to terrorize, to announce a terrifying new presence. This was more than just a murder. It was a disturbing message. A new scary force is here, and it's got a pattern. It was the signature of a monster, making a chilling statement that would soon define an era of fear in the city. This was the work of the New York Ripper. To truly understand the dark path one takes, we often have to look back at where it all began. The journey into the darkness for the New York Ripper, a man later identified as Richard Cottingham, didn't start in the frantic streets of 1980s New York. It began much earlier, in a childhood that harbored deeper complexities. Born in 1946, Richard's early life wasn't without its challenges. Accounts suggest a childhood marked by an unsettling mix of instability and emotional detachment. His family environment seemed to foster a growing sense of isolation within him. This early detachment likely created fertile ground for disturbing thoughts. Experts often point to the absence of empathy development during crucial early years as a key indicator. For Cottingham, this period appears to have been critical. He wasn't born a monster, but the seeds of his future actions may have been sown in an environment that struggled to cultivate genuine connection. A seemingly quiet, unassuming boy, quietly observing the world, and perhaps building a hidden inner world that would one day lead to unimaginable acts. The disturbing thoughts eventually sought an outlet. The exact moment Richard Cottingham crossed the crucial line remains a chilling point for investigators. Many believe his true criminal path began long before the infamous New York Ripper attacks. His initial foray into violence was tragic. The first confirmed victim, Mary Ann Taylor, was tragically lost in 1967 at just 17 years old. This first move might have come from pure impulse, but wow, it hit hard. For the first time, the darkness within Cottingham found a tangible, deadly expression. Police and criminal psychologists understand the profound significance of this first step. For someone developing into a serial offender, it's the boundary that is crossed, where the fear of consequence is overcome by a disturbing compulsion. It was a terrifying test run, a moment where the outwardly unremarkable individual learned they could take a life and continue to move freely in society. Over the next decade, Richard Cottingham would continue to refine his horrific methods, leading him relentlessly toward the terror he would unleash. By the late 1970s and early 80s, Richard Cottingham had developed a chilling and highly effective modus operandi, turning his crimes into calculated acts of control. His victims were primarily vulnerable women, whom he would lure into motels or other isolated places. His method was disturbing in its organization. The killer's signature often involved two key elements: control and premeditation. Victims were systematically incapacitated, turning the act into a horrifying exercise of psychological dominance. The violence inflicted aimed not just to silence, but to utterly dehumanize, fulfilling a sadistic compulsion that grew darker with each act. Perhaps the most chilling aspect of the New York Ripper's crimes lay in the disturbing actions taken to obscure identity and leave a terrifying, unmistakable message for the authorities. He frequently engaged in alterations to the crime scene and the victims' bodies. He sought not only to evade identification, but to leave a terrifying, consistent message for the public. The sheer consistency of these acts, the methodical desecration, cemented his image as a true monster. Each victim became a chilling testament to his profound psychological darkness. He was a killer who systematically sought to obliterate the dignity of those he left behind, creating a signature of pure, unadulterated terror across the region. Despite his horrifying methods and the widespread fear he instilled, no killer, no matter how meticulous, can evade justice indefinitely. The intensive hunt for the New York Ripper escalated, pushing law enforcement to their very limits. In 1979, one of Richard Cottingham's most infamous crimes was uncovered in a hotel near Times Square. A housekeeper entered the room and stumbled upon a scene so horrific that detectives later called it one of the most disturbing crime scenes of the decade. The victim, a young woman, had not only been murdered, but brutally dismembered. Cottingham had removed identifying parts of her body, making it nearly impossible for police to determine who she was. Everything about the scene pointed to precision and control, his signature. It was after this case that the media first began calling him the New York Ripper, a nickname inspired by the brutality and deliberate terror behind his methods. Cottingham later admitted that during this period, he had targeted several other women in similar ways, operating for years before investigators could connect the crimes. They were pursuing a ghost until a crucial, unexpected break in the case finally materialized. The turning point came in May 1980. Richard Cottingham, following his disturbing pattern, had lured another victim to a motel. But this time, fate had other plans. Despite the brutal attack, the victim survived and found the courage to escape, and bravely escape. Her harrowing testimony provided police with invaluable details. Information about the attacker's appearance, his vehicle, and most critically, the unique nature of the items he used. Armed with this critical intelligence, detectives were able to track Cottingham. On May 22, 1980, he was finally apprehended, caught in the act as he attempted another abduction. The horrifying reign of terror, meticulously planned and brutally executed, had at long last come to an end. The New York Ripper was unmasked as Richard Cottingham, a seemingly ordinary computer programmer and father, living a chilling and unimaginable double life. Cottingham was swiftly charged with multiple horrific crimes across both New York and New Jersey. Despite any initial denials, the overwhelming evidence, including forensic links, consistent methodology, and survivor testimony, led to his swift convictions. He was found guilty of numerous murders and assaults and was rightfully sentenced to multiple life terms in prison. Cottingham admitted he got a twisted satisfaction from having complete control over his victims. Killing wasn't just about ending a life, it was about feeling absolute power. He had a deep-seated sexual sadism, deriving pleasure from the pain, fear, and suffering of others. His crimes combined violence, sexual obsession, and dark compulsion. Most of his victims were women in vulnerable situations, such as sex workers. He likely believed they would go unnoticed, making them easier targets. Richard Cottingham, the man behind the terrifying mask of the New York Ripper, remains incarcerated to this day. His capture brought an end to an era of widespread fear, but the brutality of his actions and the chilling reality of his hidden life continue to serve as a dark reminder of the evil that can exist in plain sight. Justice, though painstakingly achieved, eventually brought some measure of peace to the victims' families. Thanks for watching, and remember to subscribe for more deep dives into history's most compelling cases.